Okay. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to call the meeting to order for the work session of March the 14th, 2017. And the first item on the agenda is an opportunity for citizens to make comments that are not on the agenda during this session. I have a number of different speaker cards here tonight on two different issues. And the first issue is the McEwen Drive, and then the other is the Spencer Creek property. I'm going to ask that we allow the McEwen Drive speakers to go first. I'm going to limit you to 2 minutes. If there is a spokesperson for the group, I'm glad to allow a few additional moments. Is there a spokesperson for that particular group? Steve? Oh, you're Ladd Park. Anybody else from Ladd Park going to speak?
That's still McEwen.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So with no objections or any comments from the board, we'll go ahead with public comment. If you'll help me keep the time up here. Mr. Abernathy, you got here first, and you're welcome to sit there or wherever you'd like. Just.
Thank you. I'm Steve Abernathy. I live at 152 Clyde Circle, and I serve on the board, the HOA board at that location. I'm here this afternoon to represent Ladd Park, and we have several residents here along the back with the little stickers that are also here, and I'm hoping to speak for them. We're here to show support for the local agency project agreement with TDOT for McEwen Drive, the $10 million grant. On February 28th, Jerry Anderson, who is the chairman of our PAC, spoke to you all and shared some information about the safety concerns with Long Lane and also the truck stop issues with a high volume of trucks we have in that area and the danger we have in that area. Those issues are still valid, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to recover those for you tonight. The Phase 4 project for McEwen Drive is approved and will be completed. The question tonight is whether it'll be completed in 3.5 years or 4.5 years. And yes, I know I'm being optimistic by saying 4.5 years, but Mr. Stuckey on February 28th explained that much of the work has already been completed that will allow the process to work quicker, so I'm hoping that will be the case. The $10 million grant from the federal government can only be used for the McEwen Lane project. This $10 million grant is a gift for the City of Franklin taxpayers. Last June, you all voted to approve a property tax increase of 10 cents to be used for infrastructure improvement and city operations. Two of the road projects specifically addressed in there were Phase 4 of McEwen Drive and the Long Lane Overpass project. Yes, $1 million of grant will be needed to support the various environmental studies that will add additional time, but doesn't that also add value to the project for McEwen Drive? The remaining $9 million gives you the opportunity to quickly begin to work on two of your budgeted priorities identified last June, benefiting all City of Franklin taxpayers. The 2016-2017 City of Franklin budget for all funds is $135 million. The actual dollar increase from the previous budget was $7.5 million. This $10 million grant could allow you to avoid asking for another tax increase next year. My wife and I live in Ladd Park. Our property tax bill for 2016 was $2,877, which, by the way, is a whole lot cheaper than Davidson County where we lived previously, and I thank you for that. It would take 3,128 City of Franklin taxpayers living in a similar home paying their property tax to equal $9 million. Please vote yes tonight on the local agency project agreement with TDOT for McEwen Drive for all the taxpayers of the City of Franklin. Again, thank you for your service and thanking me for this time to speak tonight.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Capolino.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts with you tonight. My name is Jim Capolino. My wife Sylvia and I live at the Mead of Avalon off McEwen Drive. We moved to Franklin about 11 years ago from Rochester, New York, to be with our two sons, my daughter-in-law, my 11 and 13-year-old granddaughters. I'm a business owner for over 40 years and currently an active SCORE volunteer.
My concern is if the board votes to accept the federal and state money, the message you are sending to everyone is your willingness to risk the lives of many people for $10 million. I agree, $10 million is a lot of money to kick out the door. However, a 15 to 33-month delay caused by accepting the money will put all that travel in this road in harm's way for an extended period of time. Historically, traffic has been growing at a linear rate, giving the city an opportunity to deal with the demands on the infrastructure. But right now, we're growing exponentially, and we're going to experience that when the Ovation project is complete. This project will only increase the chances for accidents resulting in serious injury or death. If just one person got killed during that extended period of time, are we going to say that was worth it? Are we going to say, well, it was only one? I don't believe there's anyone in this room that's willing to put the lives of their loved one at risk for $10 million or any amount of money. But this is not a typical business transaction where you're comparing a multi-million-dollar bid to another multi-million-dollar bid. What you're doing is you're comparing millions of dollars to a life. We don't know what a life is worth. I can't come up with a dollar figure for that, but certainly not 10 million or 100 million. So don't make this about money. Make it about saving lives. Could be your life, could be my life, it could be one of the kids on that school bus that travels 50 buses a day. And just think about the extended period of time. How many buses are going to travel in McEwen between 15 months or 33-month delay? It's almost a guarantee that somebody's going to get hurt, maimed, or killed with the amount of traffic that's going to happen when Ovation opens up.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You timed it
Appreciate it.
perfectly.
Wasn't an accident.
Mr. Wood, Danny B.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Danny B. Wood, and I own property at 208 Pennystone Circle off McEwen Lane. I spoke a couple of weeks ago, and I think I mentioned that I sell houses for a living. And I got to think about that, and I've sold about 600 houses in the McEwen Lane area, either on McEwen Lane or around McEwen Lane, over the last 17 years. So I guess I'm part of the problem. But I think I'm also part of the solution. I did a little calculating, and those 600 houses over the last 17 years have brought in about $21 million in tax revenue. And I know what you're thinking, a lot of that went to the county, and it did, but the city still got several million. And those houses now are generating about $2 million a year in taxes, and will continue to do that for the next 17 years, and 17 years after that. Eventually could fund the whole thing. But I realize that even if it had been $21 billion, that doesn't give me any authority to tell you guys how to spend even one penny of that money. But I just wanted you to know that I'm not just some average Joe out here that is inconvenienced by McEwen Lane. My family has suffered severely. My wife was almost killed on that road. My 3 daughters, ages 6 through 17, their lives have drastically changed. They have to do more than girls their age because their mother can't do as much as she used to be able to. So I know there's a lot of people here tonight. There's a lot of opinions. My family has an opinion too. But we have something that very few, if any, else of the other people have. We have some real skin in the game. Quite frankly, I think we got a lot of skin in the game. And I don't want another family to have to go through what our family has gone through. So I asked you, please, actually I beg you, please, don't take the money. Let's don't wait one extra day that we don't have to get that road finished. Thank you very much.
Brandy Whitehead.
Hi. I spoke several months ago about school bus wrecks. I've lived here since I was 8 years old in Williamson County. Was part of a school bus wreck. Now live in Avalon, and I've got 3 daughters and drive that multiple times a day. And I just do not want there to be another school bus wreck. I want to represent the children, advocate for them. It is physically impossible, I know you guys have ridden it, for the bus to stay in the lanes with the curves. Even if driven perfectly, it always goes over. So I really fear for more wrecks and deaths in that area, and I just beg you as well to go ahead and start this process as soon as possible. So, thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Mastroberti. Tell me I said your name correctly.
Please excuse me, I do have a bit of a cold. But thank you, Mayor Moore and Alderman, for this opportunity to speak today. I'm Matthew Mastroberti, an 18-year-old senior at Ravenwood High School. And although people my age typically do not attend events like this, let alone speak at one, this upcoming decision on whether to accept state and federal funding for East McEwen was too important for me to miss. While the money, I am sure, is important to you, the time delay required of 1.5 to 3.5 additional years is completely unacceptable. Now you may be thinking, it's only a couple of years, what difference does it make? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have heard that phrase before, and the difference is life and death for some. Just last month, my friend Lexi, who's actually over here in the audience, if you could stand up real quick. Thank you. She was driving another friend, Catherine, and I down McEwen over to the bowling alley. She was going the speed limit when, all of a sudden, a deer jumped directly in front of us. With the options of either driving into oncoming traffic, a ditch, or possibly hitting the deer, Lexi thankfully picked the latter. She slammed the brakes and thanked the Lord the deer barely jumped out of the way at the last second. If there was a car behind us, or Lexi chose literally any other defensive maneuver, we might not be here today. So Mayor Moore and Alderman, tell me, is my life worth $10 million? Is Lexi's life worth $10 million? Is the other passenger, Catherine's life, worth $10 million? Are the lives of a busload of children heading to school worth putting aside $10 million for one project? I don't think so. And I hope you will agree with me and reject the state and federal funding for East McEwen, as well as the uncalculated delay that comes with it. This will get life-sustaining construction started the week after your vote here this evening. Please don't let this vote haunt you someday. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Michael Phillips. Did a nice job for an 18-year-old, I agree. Yeah, very good.
Hello, I'm Michael Phillips from 417 Gambrel Court in Franklin. It's difficult for me, or probably anybody in here, to turn aside $10 million. I just have to agree that the safety of the people that travel that road every day, the hundreds of kids that do it every day, thousands every week, the risk is not worth $10 million. You installed the guardrail on that section of road. Today you're going to approve additional safety enhancements for that road. You made this the #1 project on the CIP. The most important thing in the city that needs to be done is straighten and widen this road. Because of those, it's proof that you recognize the dangers of that road, because you've taken steps to try to do something about it. You've made a commitment to the citizens of Franklin, Nolensville, Murfreesboro, all the school buses that traverse that road every single day. Knowing, being very familiar with the hazards, dangers of driving that road, and the proof that you've given us that you know those dangers. If you take steps that will cause a delay in making that road safer, you will be liable for every accident, every injury, every death. And not one is worth $10 million. And I'll say, like I said before last time I spoke to you, if you're looking for more money, I'll find you $24 million. Do not vote to tear down this building and put up another one in its place while we still have safety and roadway projects on our to-do list.
Thanks, sir. Dawn Newton?
Right, it's an ongoing theme. So good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to speak from my heart. And my name is Dawn Newton. My two daughters and I reside in the Mead of Avalon neighborhood on Pennystone Circle. I'm a mother and concerned parent because of the safety issues of McEwen. I travel this road daily, sometimes 4 trips to and from Cool Springs for work, school, and girls to and from dance, and a lot of other mothers and parents in my neighborhood as well. Many trips down this road. My daughter is Hannah, it's Centennial High School student, and she's on the bus daily to and from school. Personally, on 2 separate occasions, I've stopped for teenage drivers to assist them with an accident until the police arrived or their parents arrived on this very treacherous corners, and no one was stopping for them. So it was really dangerous time. And then after taking my child to school one morning, there was another car off the side of in the ditch on the dangerous curve, and I couldn't stop for her. So I had to go on, and then the police closed the road, and the traffic was blocked for miles off Wilson Pike. It took me 30 minutes to get back home from the elementary school. So a lot of traffic jam there. I'm a concerned parent and also a citizen, and there are many teen drivers from the surrounding neighborhoods who are driving McEwen, some late at night after work or practice. Many children's lives are at stake, so I ask you to consider my 2 beautiful daughters, your grandchildren, even your neighbors. It's been said that our children are messages to a time we'll never see. So please look at the risk of human lives and fix the problem before something tragic occurs. It's just a matter of time before a bus makes an overcorrection or worse. My baby is on that bus. So maybe you say wait. Wait for what? Wait for a knock on your door that your child's been in a wreck or that have been life flight. So thank you for your consideration
Thank you.
and no delay.
Jill Wood? Wherever you like.
My name is Jill Wood, and I own property with my husband, Danny B., at 208 Pennystone Circle. I'm here to tell you about an accident that I was personally involved in on McEwen Lane. It was in October of 2015, so about 17 months ago. I was at Ravenwood High School that morning. I've been working for several years on getting my license as a school counselor, and all I had remaining was my internship, which is what I was working on that morning. My oldest daughter texted me and said her ears hurt, her throat hurt. She had club volleyball tryouts that night, and I thought, oh dear, they don't allow any room for injuries or illness. And so I told her I would leave and go get her some soup and bring it back and then take her to the doctor during her lunch hour. So I left Ravenwood and I took a left on Wilson Pike. I took a right on McEwen Lane, and in this curve that we keep hearing about tonight, there was a very large white truck that whipped around the corner and got in my lane, and he was heading straight toward me. Well, there's no shoulder. To the left is a cliff, and my only choice was to turn to the right and hope that he didn't hit me. So I just gritted my teeth and shut my eyes and went like this, and he hit me. And I think you have some pictures there that were passed out. You can see the vehicle. He hit me right where the rearview mirror is. And the vehicle went up like this into the ditch. And don't know how I was able to reach my phone, but somehow I called Danny B, and I didn't know what happened. I didn't know where I was, but I knew something was seriously wrong because when I held the phone to my ear, it felt like my ear was over here.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you about 30 more seconds.
Okay. So I didn't make it back to the school. I went to Vanderbilt. I was there for a week. I suffered 11 injuries. The most serious was the dissection of the vertebral arteries that supply all the blood to the brain. I'll be on a blood thinner for the rest of my life because the risk of stroke is so high. C2, where all your breathing happens or occurs, C2 was broken on both sides of the neck. So I can turn my head about 20% each way. That's as good as I can get it. I've been going to physical therapy for 17 months, and this is what condition I'm going to be in forever.
If you go ahead and wind up in fairness to the other speakers.
Okay. There have been 50 accidents on this road over the last 3 years, 20 of them in the past year. Postponing this will just result in about 20 more accidents each year that it's postponed. So the person that was hitting me was driving a vehicle that didn't belong to him, and he had a suspended license. There was no question as to who was at fault, but still our insurance had to open a claim on it until the attorneys resolved it. They valued my damages at $2.8 million, but an accident is only worth how much insurance money there is. This has been financially, emotionally, physically devastating for my family. I honestly don't even know how to put it into words. I'm glad I'm alive. I'm glad that my children didn't lose their mother. But, you know, if it were your wife, you know, or your husband, or if it were your child, you know, would you make the same decision? Would you want this project to move forward and not be delayed for another day?
Yeah. Thank you for your comments. That's all the speaker cards I have on items that are not on the agenda. So we'll move on to item number 1, which is an application for valet parking services from the Shalom Foundation for an event on May the 13th in downtown Franklin from 5:30 p.m. to 11 p.m.
This is a pretty straightforward permit request. It's a one-day event for the valet parking to go with this event. I would just identify for the board, when we updated our ordinances and provided for valet parking within the central business district, one of the things we added is that even the one-day events would come to the board for approval. So previously, we had worked with applicants on certain accommodations administratively, and now all those are coming to you. Just let us know if you're continue to be comfortable with that or how you want to handle those going forward. Sometimes it takes longer to get on a board agenda, so we're trying to let folks know ahead of time so that they can get those to you. But I just wanted to highlight that change for you because I believe this is the first one you've seen that is a one-day, you know, special event type of permit. So just sharing that with you in terms of a change of how we do things.
Alderman Peterson?
Okay, it appears that that will take up 4 parking places. Is that going to be the general rule then?
I think it's 3 to 4 is typical for what you would see for a valet operation. It may depend a little bit on the configuration of where they're doing it.
Well, I noticed there today, whenever I drove by it, there was a little green sign that says lift there. What's that?
I think that was for the Brewfest. That was a sign for the Brewfest.
Oh, so it really, that sign needs to be down now, is that right?
Alderman Barnhill?
Cover a little bit of the, I guess, the overall thinking here, because what I guess we're covering, we're blocking out 3 or 4 parking places on 3rd Avenue. Is there a specific parking places in the Second Avenue and the Fourth Avenue garages that are gonna be set aside also from the valet parking too?
Well, they're gonna use available spaces. That's their plan.
Wherever.
Yeah.
They're gonna
And
what?
there are typically spaces available on a Friday evening.
A
Especially in
Saturday,
the-
it's
or
a
Saturday
Saturday.
evening, sorry, Saturday
Saturday,
evening.
yeah.
Especially in the Second Avenue garage.
And this would be really a test for this policy we put in place. I mean, to really see how, and we would be able to make those judgments based on how successful or not successful or concerns that we may get. So I'm in agreement with moving forward with this. Yeah.
I think this is a good test,
Yeah.
except that I think Main Street would be a much different test.
Yeah.
But I think this
And
would
one
be a
option
good-
for you down the line may be to look at Main Street differently than you look at other streets in downtown or what, yeah, that's in the area that you've allowed either special event or other potential ongoing valet services.
Is it a test or precedent setting?
Well,
Huh?
we've allowed some special event valet parking in the past. So I don't know
But
that
not on
that's,
this ordinance.
I don't know that that's new.
Not
You
on
changed the
this
ordinance
ordinance.
to allow it on a more permanent basis, but at the same time, you also provide that the permit for even single day come to the board. So that's all I was pointing out to you, that you've kind of made all those funnel through you so you can see those.
Alderman Skinner.
So on these applications, there are no reserved parking for these cars to be transported to?
We ask that they tell us where they're going to park.
Okay.
The
But I
intent
mean,
in the
there's not
ordinance
a-
for the permanent ones, or the more ongoing ones, is that they are using private spaces, so they're not using the public domain for that, or public spaces in the garage. In this case, it's the one-day event, and they're looking at I think in particular, the Second Avenue, because you'll see in a presentation later, there's typically ample parking available in that garage on weekend evenings.
But my point is that they're not gonna reserve parking places in the Second Street garage.
No, we're not going to
or
be
they're gonna
blocking spaces off or any of that.
Or anything on a public street?
No.
Other than?
Just for where the valet service
Okay.
is being executed.
I have just a question on logistics. Will the vehicles have to come in from the north and just pull in, on that side of the street that they would be on? I would think that would be easy to
I
do.
think that's the main way you'd have to do it. I mean, we
That's
do
what I
allow
do too.
U-turns on streets, so I can't say they would, but they're
Well,
gonna.
actually, here, they could just go up and around the square to
Yeah,
do that.
they could.
But I noticed some of the things kind of act like you're going to move to one of the other garages, making the U-turn there, and I.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be
that-
difficult. I
that-
think
okay.
it's gonna, I think naturally happen on that side of the
I
street.
think so too, but I just wanted to check. Thank you.
Yeah.
Alderman Berger.
For that particular evening, do we have any other activities going on downtown that we know of? I was just gonna say, would it be easier to ask them to use a certain level of the garage?
No, there's no other.
Okay.
No.
No, I don't really care about that
Yeah.
then, but I was gonna say, if there's multiple events, then you can ask them to please park like, in the second and third
Mhm.
level.
The higher level.
Okay, we're good,
Great.
thank you.
And so tonight, representing Shalom is Teresa Parr. Might be familiar last name because her mom works here. So she's not going to give a presentation, she's glad to know. So before I move on to item number 2, I am going to move item number 7 up after number 3. So just FYI. So item number 2 is consideration of amendment number 2 of City of Franklin contract 2016-0096 between the City of Franklin and Middle Tennessee State University for the installation of interpretive signage at the Carter Hill Battlefield Park.
We're just changing the date on the agreement to provide time to implement it.
Okay, item number 3, discussion of letters of interest for city-owned property located along the Harpeth River by MacHatcher Parkway and Spencer Creek. And I think we have 3 different 5-minute presentations we're going to do. We're going to recuse Alderman Berger.
Mayor Moore and Alderman, as a brief comment of introduction, a few months ago, you gave us direction to go ahead and open up a process through which folks could make proposals for the use of about 53 acres of property that the city owns along Mac Hatcher, just west of the new First United Methodist Church campus. And so we opened that process up, and around a month or so ago, closed that process, and through that we received 3 proposals from entities that expressed through a letter of interest how they might want to use that property. And so tonight's meeting is really only designed to share with you what those 3 proposals are and have you hear from each of them. We asked them to go no longer than 5 minutes each, and if they can do shorter, that's great too. We've got a full agenda. But just for you to hear from them what they propose. From here, staff will review more completely the proposals, understand better the details, timing, potential conditions that might be involved in a lease agreement with each of these entities. So that will be a part of that discussion. And I would expect that that's going to take us a couple months to do our due diligence and come back to you with more information, more items for consideration, some pros and cons, and as we always try to do, provide you with a staff recommendation as well. So I don't know if we have a specific order that we would like to go tonight, Mr. Mayor, but we have all 3 folks
Could we do them in
represented
the
here
order that
and
we
wanna
have
open
them
up that
here? Could we
opportunity.
do them in the order that we have them in our?
Sure.
Sure.
Is that okay? Is that okay?
Let's see, what order is that?
Children music.
Children's, the
Discovery Center
Music
goes
Center,
first.
and then
Okay.
Cheekwood, and then the Housing Commission.
And what I plan on doing with the citizen comments or allowing those after everyone that represents these organizations speaks. And I still have John Besser hanging in the back that's going to come from the Housing Commission. You can come up and sit right here, John, and that way we can grab you real quick. So, welcome. Introduce yourself again, and looking forward to your presentation. 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, City Administrator, and Alderman. Good evening. I am Tara McDougall, CEO of Discovery Center at Murphy Spring, and this is Jerry Hasselbring, Museum Experience Analyst. Discovery Center is driven by STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Imagine the possibilities of creating a space, both indoors and outdoors, that caters to our kids and grandkids, while giving adults a chance to learn and grow as well. A place where people of all ages, income levels, educational backgrounds, and interests can come together to uncover the mysteries of the universe or the intricacies of nature right here in our backyard on the Harpeth River. Our plans are to open a 45,000 square foot children's museum with permanent and temporary exhibit galleries, program spaces, community and event spaces, a science theater, and additional outdoor classroom areas with connections to trails and river access. It's no secret that Franklin and Williamson County are blessed. It's no secret Franklin and Williamson County are blessed with rich history, world-class schools, a top-notch library system, amazing shops and restaurants, popular festivals, beautiful parks, new corporate headquarters, fantastic golf courses, and a robust real estate market. What's missing? A children's museum, a place where families can go and have fun and learn together. Discovery Center will be one more reason that quality of life in Franklin becomes exceptional for all ages. Discovery Center strives to expand the concept of what a children's museum can be. We are committed to seeking community input so that what is truly valuable, relevant, and important to the community is always at the forefront of our decisions and initiatives. Our Kids First initiative provides free access for families who qualify. Since 2004, we have provided 39,000 field trip scholarships, 111 free or reduced events for 112,000 visitors, and 800 free memberships. I invite you to learn more about our accessibility initiatives, including the Harrington Span family, in our annual report found in your packet.
Discovery Center serves as a bridge between formal and informal learning. Did you know that the average American spends only about 5% of his or her lifetime in the classroom, and only a small fraction of that time is dedicated to science instruction? Emerging data suggests that the best way to increase the public understanding of science is to reach people during that other 95% of their life. Discovery Center will provide quality experiences for that lifetime of learning, beginning with preschool programming. What looks like play is real learning. Play is the vital activity that children use to learn about and interact with their world, and it serves as the foundation for lifelong success. Discovery Center offers camps, interactive exhibits, field studies, and special events, such as a Science of Sports Saturday. And adult learners will enjoy science cafes and themed after-hours, adults-only events. Discovery Center is a resource for teachers. Our field studies assist teachers in getting difficult concepts across or reinforcing classroom learning. We also serve as models of hands-on teaching and learning practices. Discovery Center serves older children and youth. Our youth council is for teens 12 to 18, offering career exploration and the development of soft employment skills such as showing up to work on time and networking. There will also be volunteer opportunities with our neighboring schools, Franklin High School and BGA, and a Geeking Out space, which is a club-like atmosphere where teens learn new things or explore new technologies with their friends. Discovery Center brings a new way of impacting the economic well-being of this community. We specialize in building curiosity and wonder in children because you never know what will spark a child's imagination. Curiosity and wonder lead to genuine interests that lead to careers and economic and workforce development. Discovery Center will be a year-round tourism destination for families. It will diversify the tourism landscape, providing yet another reason for folks around the state and the country to visit and support the local economy. And as you can see from these two maps, our reach is broad, with Tennesseans from all but 4 counties visiting Discovery Center last year, as shown on the top map, and by serving schools in 18 counties, and we anticipate growing our reach even further.
This project will be part of a grassroots effort in public and private partnerships. With significant statewide partnerships and national partnerships, Discovery Center will be a venue for building partnerships that will benefit our children, an incubator of tomorrow's innovation leaders. And finally, we are confident that in year 1 of operation, we will surpass 100,000 visitors with opportunities for growth. The Tuck Hinton firm has been working with us on this approximately $25 million project. In conjunction with our 30th anniversary this year, we are hoping to announce the project this fall with an opening date of late 2019 or early 2020. I will also add we opened Discovery Center at Murphy Spring with no debt. Imagine the possibilities. Thank you all.
Can we ask a question?
Sure.
$25 million, that builds the building?
That builds the building, that funds the permanent exhibits, and that also is the start of an endowment, which we really would want to do with this project as well. So that approximately $25 million will cover all of that.
Alderman Martin.
So your goal is to purchase this property from the city?
Our purchase is not to purchase property from the city.
Alderman Martin, we wouldn't lease with any of these. We lease the
Yes.
property to any of these 3 users. And we do a long-term lease and allow for the use that's being proposed. So ultimately, you would direct us to negotiate a lease and approve a long-term lease with any one of these 3 users.
That is a whale of amount of money to spend on a leased property.
That is the situation we have currently at Murphy Spring. We do lease the property at $1 a year, which is kind of standard practice. I don't know what the terms would be for this arrangement. But we also went through an expansion at Discovery Center in 2008, and that was debt-free as well. We have phenomenal corporate partners and individuals.
Just one question. Did I hear, are you for-profit or non-profit or a
Nonprofit.
combination?
Nonprofit 501c3.
Okay, that was my
Okay,
question.
and what kind of staff do you, and what kind of staff numbers do you have?
Well, currently, which of course the staff numbers will change, but currently we have 14 full-time and then a total of 30. The part-time are 30 hours and under a week, and we have a lot of volunteers that help as well.
And you employ locally wherever?
Of course.
Wherever you are?
Of course,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
And we do
Next.
have packets for you all.
What days do you envision being open?
What days? We are only closed about 3 days a year.
So you said 100,000 visitors in the first year?
Mhm.
That's 275 a day.
Yes. We average right now about 130,000 at Discovery Center at Murphy Spring. And with the additional reach to surrounding counties and Franklin being a tourist destination, we're confident of that number.
What are the ticket prices for children?
Currently, right now, admission at Discovery Center is $8. There are memberships available that start at $65, and as we mentioned in the presentation, we are known for our free admission that we raise through corporate funds for those that qualify.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, Cheekwood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
If y'all introduce yourselves,
And
so,
we will
for the
do
record.
that. I first want to thank you guys for the opportunity to come and give this presentation. And to my left is one of my partners, Jody Pierce, who's also Jody Pritchard and Tommy Pierce, excuse me. So we form a partnership that owned Cheekwood Golf Club that was formerly known as Fairways of Spencer Creek. Cheekwood Golf Club is currently a 22-year-old business that is established here in Franklin, Tennessee. This year alone, we approached close to 30,000 rounds of golf. Jody and Tommy both are entrepreneurs and real estate investors here in the Nashville area, and I myself am a golf course architect by trade. I've lived in the Franklin area for over 14 years, and I currently live in Ward 2. I was raised in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and after college went to work for the golfing legend Jack Nicklaus for over 13 years and Mr. Jerry Pate for over 4. My client list includes Four Seasons Resorts, Ritz-Carlton Hotel, PGA National, Trump National Resorts, different individuals like Mr. Johnny Morris, who is the founder of Bass Pro Shops, and Mr. Clint Eastwood. I just want to emphasize the fact I could live anywhere in the United States, and I picked Franklin, Tennessee as my home. Our golf course was formerly, as I said, known as Fairways on Spencer Creek. And what we want to do is continue the spirit of working with the city of Franklin, which started some 8 to 10 years ago with the Water Quality Project. And our general manager, Carolyn Perez, has a board that represents that the past owners gave to us efforts that the city of Franklin had participated in at that time. So with that being said, we really have a three-pronged approach. We approach this property on an environmental perspective, catering to our youth and retirement demographic, and also with new clubhouse facilities for event and social activities. Our first prong is the environment. As the United States Golf Association has emphasized about golf courses, we can provide wildlife habitat by continual open space. We also protect the topsoil from water and wind erosion. We improve the community aesthetics. We can absorb and filter rainwater as well as groundwater irrigation. Now, this brings up a very important point, because we want to create a public and private relationship with the wastewater treatment plant that's directly across the river and be the light on the shining hill of sustainable golf course development. That is my background and my expertise. Also, we want to be your first customer of the fertilizer that's being produced in your proposed expansion of the wastewater treatment plant. With saying that and all, our contribution to the economy and also to the local charities of this community, we think would be very well put forward. Like just last year alone, we only supported 4 golf tournaments that raised close to $20,000 for charities inside of the city limits of Franklin and Williamson County. Our overall goal will be to have an 80% organic level of management, which performs with a sustainable type of lifestyle in our golf community. And the only way we develop is along Audubon International guidelines. Now, I helped develop those guidelines with Audubon International, so it's only pays due that that's what we do. Also, on our second prone approach, we want to also cater to the youth and retirement objectives here in Franklin, Tennessee, and emphasize that we are more than a golf course. Our philosophy and beliefs of our partnership firmly believe in becoming part of the fabric of the community. Again, we are more than a golf course. We host over 20 public and private junior high schools for their golf seasons and tournaments. The leased property will allow us to grow that into the high school level. And as we've discussed also with the athletic directors at Belmont University, we have an opportunity to bring Belmont in as the home of their golf team. Also, we've reached out to other organizations that believe in the same philosophies that we do. One of such is Teach, Grow, Achieve. TGA is an organization who uses tennis and golf to build character and life lessons to our young people. The TGA organization is actually currently involved in your Franklin Special School District as we speak. And so what they need is basically areas to expand and to continue their growth in your school system. Another example of how we reach out to the youth is last year alone, over 200 female golf scholarships went unclaimed just due to the lack of exposure and momentum to get young female golfers in front of those scholarships. When I learned of this, I reached out to Kylene Lee, who's the athletic director at Harpeth Hall High School, also a past LPGA player, who is her passion to get female golfers in and in front of these scholarships. So we are now putting together, even this year as we speak, an opportunity for Williamson County and Franklin High School students to get in front of these college golf scholarships. I'd also like to show that we have a vibrant and growing retirement community at Cheekwood Golf Club. We currently host over 100 retired men and women who participate with us weekly. Now tonight we have some of their representatives, if I can ask y'all to stand if you don't mind. They are organized and they brought, I believe what we have, 8 or so representatives. Some will also speak on their behalf as well. This expansion or lease process, we could possibly double or even triple that participation in our retired community. Our third prong with this would be new clubhouse facilities. In our phased development process, our new clubhouse facilities could also create new meeting and event venue for area civic businesses, type of clubs and venues, for instance, Rotary Club, BNI, chamber lunches, different types of things of that nature, corporate meetings, weddings, possible fitness opportunities, and also outdoor community uses, community movie night, graduation parties, and that. Thank you. If there's anything you take away from our meeting tonight, please remember, we want to be a community partner, we want to be your first fertilizer customer, and we want to embrace our role as a locally owned business to inspire and motivate others through sports and community events.
Thanks, sir. You got a question, Alderman Barnhill?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Just the opposite of the other. You are not a 501c3.
No, sir.
You want the entire 54 acres.
We want to,
You
yes,
want
sir.
to develop all of that, not a piece of it, not a corner of it, not a part of it that's out of the flood zone.
Correct. We actually thrive in floodplain community. I mean, as a matter of fact, what the city has kind of started, if you look in an aerial, there's a detention area, and we can actually make that improved process, and our design actually triples that capability. So, yes, sir.
Does any part of this contemplate rezoning for residential purposes the other side?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
John Besser. Patiently waiting.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Moore, members of the board, Alderman. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm John Besser, a member of the Housing Commission and Chair, and Paul Leibowitz will join me to share our vision. We've been blessed in Franklin for many years to have sustainable growth. And by the Chamber's recent report, we see that that growth could go on for many years into the future, as they have over 70 projects in the mill with over 12,000 jobs potential come to our community. Not only do they bring executives, they also bring a lot more workers, teachers, first-level managers, who are supported by our fire and police activities as well. What we find and what we're concerned about is that there is not enough attainable housing for these workers, which make up the bulk of the new workers that come to our community, to live in our community. We see this as a problem that leads to continued and growing congestion in our traffic, because these people find other housing in surrounding cities and counties. Our vision of the Housing Commission is to use this property to provide some attainable housing in the $250,000 to $300,000 price range, so that this is attainable to teachers, firemen, policemen, first-level managers, married couples, new graduates, all the people that these companies' expansions and moving to our community. This property is centrally located. It's a short walk, a bike ride to downtown, a short drive over to the Cool Springs and Carruthers passageways. So we, in our vision, look to see a public-private partnership to develop this model to provide this housing. Paul will show what this could look like. Paul?
Thank you. I first want to point out that the property, this triangle, the floodplain goes right to there. There's this piece and this piece are out of the floodplain. So out of the whole tract, there's maybe, out of 51 acres, there may be about 3 acres that don't flood. And there's 150 foot off of the property, off of the edge of the Mac Hatcher that's reserved as open space. So you can't build into it. You can have, and you've probably seen all that on the recent project down the street at Franklin Road and Mac Hatcher. There's 150 feet was reserved. Well, what we're looking at is actually, we'd like to use this piece for new houses or townhouses, and the remaining could be reserved for any recreation purpose, including the golf course that Todd just laid out. This is the only piece that's out of the floodplain. This piece is so small that we can't even see it's worth it to build a road to connect it. See which way.
Point over here.
How
Which
many,
way do we point?
how many houses?
Okay, point it at her.
How many houses?
I'm gonna show you in just a second. We did 2 sketches, and you'll see this part is reserved, that's a 150-foot area. Down below, there's 1.87 acres. On this one, these were 30 by 65-foot lots for townhouses, and there's room for 19 townhouses. And I know there's gonna be a road supposedly connects over to the high school area. We don't know where it orients, so we just showed a simple connection to this cul-de-sac that's been built in. That's it, wrong way. Okay, she's over there again. As far as single-family homes, maybe we could get 13 in there. These are lots, 44, 45 feet by 95 feet. It's not a big area, but it's a place to put some houses. And the biggest thing driving cost of housing here is the cost of the land.
So our vision here is to provide options for these workers that come in. We hope this is a model for other developers and builders to see that houses in this price ranges are greatly in demand, greatly in need, and it could be a model that we begin to see other areas that could have this type of housing in this price range available and attainable to these people moving in so that they don't move to other areas. We would bring all these to the tax rolls, this public partnership, and we look forward to working with the planning department and ask for your favorable consideration as we move forward.
Go ahead, Alderman Barnhill.
One thing I would say, and this is to any and all of them, probably a year ago or 2 years ago, whatever it was, we said to the Methodist Church that we, the city, was not going to use that intersection up there, and we required them to pay all of that intersection cost. If we do this, whoever we do it with, I'm looking for that group to go to the church, and if they don't do anything else, make at least a contribution, pay half of whatever the church says it costs. We sat there and told the church that we were not going to use it. There was no intention for us to use it at the time, but that has since changed, and I think we owe it to the Methodist Church because they spent the money and the time to put that traffic signal and make that intersection usable.
Alderman.
How do we provide meaningful, affordable housing on a long-term lease? Because it seems to me like, sure, you could do a long-term lease at whatever favorable rate and create the houses and arrange some transaction with would-be occupants, but they're on the clock. There will come a day that someone's left holding the bag. And that seems to me to be a difficult thing to reconcile. And to me, there's two goals, at least two goals, but two that come to mind when we talk about creating affordable housing. One is to allow people who fit into the workforce housing income to be able to buy a place. But the second is to reap the benefit of having been a homeowner by one day selling that home, capturing the equity, and moving to another one. Well, how do you solve that problem if this is a lease, even if it's a 50-year lease or even a 99-year lease? You're running out of time the day you start.
I don't have a specific answer for you. We are aware of several communities that use leases to help make homes affordable. So if we're chosen to work with, we will definitely have that as a high priority for us to move forward and look at all the legal issues and how that works out. There are several communities that do this. I just don't know the specifics and the detail that
Yeah, because
we're looking for.
on a day certain that you can know in advance, the equity is zero. You don't own it and it reverts back to the landlord.
Yes.
So we need, if we want to explore this, I need to have some understanding of how we haven't created a conundrum for some board and bunch of homeowners or equity owners on a lease in the future.
Setting it after the meeting, we have a member of the Housing Commission that's experienced with working with just what you asked. I can have them write something up and give it to you.
Okay, I just want to understand how I don't want to create a conundrum for some people that aren't yet born.
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah, I would be curious as to how the loan company would even finance a house on property that you don't even own.
Well, maybe we can ask a question to y'all is there some reason you couldn't split 3 acres off that's used as possession?
If we did that, I think we'd have to declare it surplus property and let it go to the highest bidder.
Then you've got a different process.
Yeah.
That's
We-
why
we-
the lease
if we
provides a
lease-
little more
If we
ability.
lease, we get to pick.
Yeah.
Okay.
If to sell it, we have to declare it surplus and then put it up essentially for the highest bidder.
Seal bids.
If you all could get that data for us, if there are cities that's doing this and have already a track record, that would be helpful. I
We
think,
do,
to
we can
answer.
get that to you.
Alderman Martin, did you want to make a comment?
I believe in our Envision Franklin, there's a policy, maybe a statement that says we will not have intensive development on the inside of McHatcher, which would mean that townhouses, attached houses would be considered that probably. I think you'd want to look at that. And also, the reason I asked the question to the Rutherford County folks was because it does say in their letter that they want to acquire the property to do something. To me, that means buy, but if it doesn't, that's okay. But I want us to be very careful that we don't let an inch go, because we did sell some property down here by the river, I think for $28,000, and Lord knows how much we had to pay to get it back to do our development. So I want us to be very careful about letting any property go.
Okay, I'll give you 30 seconds because I've got 4 more people to speak and.
Understood. Just to answer, if you could, we have reached out to the Methodist Church, and what has happened, we've also tried to team with a gentleman named Tom Bender, who wants to set up an IMG type business sports thing, which is the largest youth sports, and he's interested in the floodplain property behind the church, and he would have to go through that property, so that we have started kind of those discussions
Okay.
as well. And we also have had this property appraised, and the lease value to date, as it sits, is in the $70,000 to $80,000 a year range. So that is what your 54 acres is worth on a lease basis.
Okay, well, I'm going to move on to speakers about, that want to talk about the Cheekwood property. And I'm sorry, I apologize, I'm going to give you 1 minute So Terry Jackson, Sean Davis, Austin Tolliver, and Mel Stockard. So,
Thank you, Paul.
sorry to just give you 1
That's
minute,
okay.
but
First of all, before we start, I'm Terry Jackson. I'm not Tommy, the Bluegrass Along the Harpers guy. So before we start, so I won't
You can't
talk-
dance like him.
I can't dance like him, and I won't talk nearly as long as.
And you don't talk like him.
Exactly. I'm here to represent the several groups from the Cheekwood. First of all, I've seen Cheekwood at its worst. I've seen its best, and right now we're at the best we've ever been. Improvements have been dramatic, and that's what we're looking forward to, improving more and more every day. Our men's league, I represent those guys. They're from 55 to 92. We've almost maxed out on our men's league right now. Our women's league is starting to get better and better. We moved to another date on Mondays to expand to another league, any age. Also represent the kids. Okay, we have 20 schools, 10 private, 10 county, that we close our course for every year in the fall. We shut the course down at 2 o'clock for them to have their leagues from August all the way to October. No other course will let them do it. They've tried it. They won't have it. We're a dying breed, guys. 9-hole courses are extinct. Okay, we've closed through the green. The Battlefield took over the Carton Club. We're the only 9-hole course open to the public anymore. So we're getting very, very slim, and I also represent the women on that behalf. But I would like to thank you for letting me talk. But again, I'm not Tommy, and I'll cut this short. Okay, so but
you just got cut.
I'm
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And maybe you can take some lessons from Tommy.
No.
Mr. Tolliver?
Sir.
Yeah, go ahead. You got 1 minute.
All right. How y'all doing today? I'm new to Franklin. I moved here 8 months ago. Moved my business up here, my family up here, and it's just been an incredible place. But I'm gonna talk to y'all in things y'all understand. Numbers and people. 34.2 million people play the game of golf every day. 34.2 million. Of that, you've got 3.28 million kids, and it's at a growth rate of 13.5% a year in the age groups of 6 to 12. That's from the National Golf Federation or Foundation's statistics. This place and these people over here are absolutely incredible. They've made me feel like I'm at home and I could be a member anywhere here. I could go to West Haven, I can go to Temple Hills, I can go anywhere. And these people have been absolute family to me. And lastly, I can tell you that we can maximize the dollar of that by celebrity golf tournaments, because my dad played in the NFL for 13 years, and we can bring a lot of money to different foundations here into Franklin. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Davis?
Thank you all. My name is Sean Davis. I'm president of the Cheekwood Homeowners Association. I represent the residents there. We own the land, a significant chunk of the land on which that golf course currently sits, including holes 4, 5, and 6. They are our tenants on that land. At our most recent HOA meeting last month, the golf club informed us that part of their expansion plan in the future was considering redeveloping portions of the existing golf course into residential real estate, including up to 12 new homes. This new potential residential construction, which wouldn't be in our HOA, despite the fact it would be in the middle of our neighborhood, it'd back up directly to our homes, it'd be in our backyards, it'd sever the community, the continuity and open space of our neighborhood, and would permanently and fundamentally alter the character of our community. But more important, any sort of residential development on that existing golf course land would constitute breach of the terms of our lease with Cheekwood Golf Club and would place the golf club in default of the contract's terms, requiring our HOA to take possession of the land, which means that if we had to take back holes 4, 5, and 6, there'd no longer be a 9-hole course there. So we don't oppose the expansion, but we respectfully request that the lease agreement, if you go forward with this, would include language requiring the existing golf course land to be used exclusively as a public golf facility and not for any other purpose for the entirety of any lease agreement with the golf club.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Stockard?
My name is Mel Stockard. I'm heavily involved with Cheekwood Golf Club and have been for quite some time. And as Terry mentioned, as far as the seniors, both men and women, We enjoy that facility, and the growth that this could bring would be a win-win for not only us, but for the whole city. One of the things that wasn't pointed out is the plans to build a driving range. And if you look around the city of Franklin and the areas as far as a driving range, you're not gonna find, you're gonna find one, and it's very limited. So the recreational facilities for the city has its benefits, and I strongly urge you to support Cheekwood in their petition. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, sir. And Eric, you wanted to?
Yeah, let me just add one quick comment, and Mr. Leibowitz, I think, made a brief reference. One of the things that came up in the process for Williamson County Schools and Franklin High School was the possibility of providing another access off of Mac Hatcher. And so there has been at least some interest expressed, and each of these three users have been informed that there is potential interest by the schools to look at a way to accommodate an access from that point to Franklin High School. It's lengthy, it's costly because you have to build a bridge. We really haven't heard further back from the school in recent times or since these proposals came in about their level of interest, except for to know there's a bit of sticker shock associated with that. So I don't know where that goes, but we are trying to make sure the schools are still in the loop as this process goes forward, regardless of the user that might make the most sense for the city, or if you don't have, you choose not to have any user, that there is that interest out there, and we're trying to make sure that that's accommodated as we have these discussions too. Again, don't know how viable or how real that is from the school standpoint, but it did come up, and we're trying to make sure it's incorporated in this conversation.
Is that the access that's there?
Yeah, it would use the existing,
Traffic
With the
signal.
light?
with the light,
Right.
and use that and work from there and go
Connect to
all
the-
the way to the high
To
school.
the back of the school.
Connection to the back, yeah.
So that's not really a full scenario.
No, it
It's
is,
a
would that
good-
incorporate
good
with
thing.
any of these?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead with the project status update on the downtown parking capacity and management study.
All right, one of the things the board had authorized, and we started back in late August of 16, was a downtown parking capacity and management study. And we are presenting to you tonight sort of a first cut of data and analysis that's taken place to this point.
On here.
This is really an informational presentation because there's a lot of work that's gone on. We want to check in with you about what we've been able to gather in terms of data, what we've been able to gather through a survey related to people's perceptions and desires around the parking and downtown parking. But we will not be making recommendations or going down that at this point. This is really to provide the information to you as a check-in, the information that we have, the information that might still be to come, and then look to the future to provide more specific recommendations or options for the board to consider around how we manage parking. So we'll turn it over. I'm not sure, Paul, you have anything else to add, or we let Brad just take it away?
Eric did a great
Okay.
job. I'm going to turn it over to Brad. Just as a reminder, we contracted with Volkert and
Yes.
Walker Parking Consultants. And so they're going to walk you through a short presentation, which we're going to pass around, but it's the same thing on your iPad.
What you're going to be getting there is basically a blown-up version of some of the charts and things, so that you don't have to strain so much to look on the screen, because I'm going to go ahead and tell you, there's a lot of data we're about to present. So bear with us. We're going to go through this as quickly as we can. We know you've got still several things on the agenda, so appreciate your time. As Paul, just
Just point that way.
Oh, it's got to point that way. Okay, all right. Yeah, so as Paul mentioned, we got started back in August, and I'm actually the project manager on the project, Brad Thompson with Volkert. I think I've met with just about everyone to talk about this, so I appreciate your all's time. Real quickly, I want to talk about the project overview and the status, which is the big part of this process in this presentation here tonight. And then we're going to go through some of the existing conditions. I will warn you, it's going to be easy to try to jump to conclusions and come up with recommendations. Those are coming, so bear with us. But tonight, it's more about the actually presenting to you some of the data and things we've collected, so you can kind of see what we're dealing with as we move forward. First of all, the purpose of the study, provide the city, obviously, businesses and shoppers with an idea of how things are working parking-wise in downtown related to parking infrastructure. We're going to be looking at projections of anticipated parking demand in the downtown area. Again, that's coming at a later date, not tonight. And then also identification of the parking infrastructure and operational needs will be coming as part of the recommendations later on. I forgot I got to point that way. All right. So you all know, we've been working with a steering team on this as well. You can see here it's made up of a variety of people, stakeholders in the community. Ultimately, we'll end up having 4 meetings with them, so we're bouncing these things off of them as well and working through this process with them so we can get good feedback from stakeholders within the downtown area who are truly interested, obviously, in parking, much like yourselves. So existing conditions is what we're here to talk about tonight. First thing I want to tell you about is inventory. So when we're talking inventory, we're talking about number of spaces that are available on street, as well as the public parking garages, and some of the selected private lots that are utilized for parking. You can see here that this map here is in your packet here. This map indicates the number of parking spaces that are on each segment there of the roadway. This is on-street parking. And I'm going to go into some more detail on that so you all are aware of the situation there. The data collection process is basically the inventory of the on-street and garage public spaces. You can see there on-street parking-wise, there are 655 spaces in the downtown area, in the study area. Garage, there are 642 spaces. Public lot, which is 271, and I'm going to show you a breakdown of these here in just a second. And then public leased lots is at 100, and then there are 1,600 private spaces as well. So here you can see the breakdown, the 2 garages, 2nd Avenue, 304 spaces, 4th Avenue garage, 338 spaces. And then when we go through the list there with regards to the public parks, they include Pinkerton Park, Harlansdale, the City Hall public lot just outside here, and the police headquarters public lot. 4th Avenue Church of Christ lot behind Starbucks, that's on Main Street there. Important to point out, that's 78 spaces currently. The important thing to point out there is that is property, parking that is leased by the city for public use, but that is set to expire November 11th of 2018, that lease. So at that point, obviously something will need to be done there. You know, there are 78 spaces we're looking at in there. And there's another lot between 4th Avenue North and 3rd Avenue North. That lease expires on January 11th of 2023. There are 22 spaces there included as part of that lease. As far as the private parking lots we looked at, the factory at Franklin is the bulk of that, 924 spaces there. And then the downtown lots otherwise accumulate 428, and then the Franklin Plaza Shopping Center on the south side of the city here on Columbia Avenue,
But
240.
aren't they talking about doing something there, though? I mean,
I'm sorry.
developing that some other way?
Franklin Plaza.
Yeah, Franklin
There's
Plaza?
potential redevelopment.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
Yes.
Right now, existing, there are 248
Okay.
spaces there. So the next thing I want to talk about real quickly is the on-street striping plan. One of the things that's going to come out of this plan is development of an on-street striping plan. Currently in the downtown area, many of your spaces are not striped, and you all realize that. In order to really get a feel for how many spaces are truly in the downtown on-street, we had to go in and create a striping plan so that if everything were done by regulation in terms of and we use the city's requirements as far as parking space length, we would know exactly how many spaces would be available in the city. So we went.
Is it not striped?
There's actually the majority of the streets are not striped.
Not straight.
Yeah, yeah.
With parking.
Let me also say to you, not to ask you about this, but on Church Street, between, I think, 3rd and 5th, they show parking on both sides, but if you look, those parking spaces are not wide enough.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's not
Exactly.
lengthwise, it's not wide enough to handle many vehicles.
There's a lot of sidewalk parking. that goes
Indeed,
on.
indeed. So really and truly, if you look at if you
Yes.
look at it, they almost need to be just on one side.
And we've got pictures galore of the sidewalk
I bet you- I
parking
bet
that
you
you
do.
referred to.
Okay.
That's a
So-
different kind of multi-use.
And ultimately, what comes out of the striping plan, those
Church.
locations will be identified and recommended
Oh,
for
okay.
striping,
Yeah, yeah,
perhaps on one side versus both sides now.
Yeah, yeah.
But you can see here on this image here, and it's very hard to see because the reality is a parking striping plan, there's not a whole lot to it in terms of drawings and those types of things, but what you got are these little white tick marks here.
I
indicate
see what you mean.
parking spaces
I see
there.
what you mean.
Just so you know, again, we base that on the city's requirements. You can see a parallel space on street is 22 feet long by
Okay.
8 feet wide.
Okay.
So all this is important because it ultimately feeds into the utilization study. And so we had to go in and figure out what the inventory was to be able to get us to the data we're about to present to you here. The parking utilization side of things, it's basically how many vehicles are parked per block, how many of those spaces are being utilized. These were done via field survey back in the fall on 30-minute intervals, and it's done to determine basically how many of those spaces are being occupied. We did it 2 weekdays and 1 weekend during the fall. Yes, we did hit court dates. We get that question a lot.
Good
Yeah.
question.
Yeah,
Very good, very good.
we did hit the court dates, and we did do 1 weekend. We did a weekend that did not have any festivals going on, obviously, which
Yeah,
was,
yeah,
let me
good
tell you,
idea.
difficult in the fall. So,
You can hardly
but-
find a weekend where there's no festival.
Exactly.
Well, that's the
Believe
point,
me,
too.
yes. Yeah, we found that out real quick. But we counted from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. For the on-street and also the garages. The street parking, we did 30-minute intervals. The garage parking, we did 15-minute intervals. We did this on a block-by-block basis. In the end, there are over 80 data sets, similar to what we're going to show you here tonight. I'm not going to show you all 80 of them. I'm sure you're glad to hear that. But that is the basis for which we are doing this study and moving forward. So we have done a substantial amount of data collection here. So real quickly, I want to go through a couple of data snapshots with you and just show you what we're able to do with some of the data and that we're using as we move forward. So 4th Avenue South between Church Street and West Main Street. So this is interesting. You'll see here the line in green is actually how many spaces were utilized on this block by cars between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. The interesting thing is, if you look at the red line, that is the 16-space capacity of the block. So in other words, when we went in and laid in the striping plan, you could really only get, you technically should only get 16 cars in there. Throughout the day, for the 12-hour period, we never are at or below that number. So that gives you an idea of the reason we did the striping plan, so that we would know. So I thought that was an interesting little chart there. This one I think you'll find interesting as well. This is the morning peak utilization, and we've got morning, midday, and afternoon. This gives you each street here, 1st Avenue South, all the way through all the others, through Cummins Street, Margin Street. This is the actual utilization of spaces. So this is similar to that chart I showed you before, but this is on a street-by-street basis. You can see we've got 4 that are
No.
okay. That scared me. I start hearing all this stuff going on.
Okay.
Your time is up.
Yeah, exactly.
You're out of here.
Can we get that next time?
They got their attention.
So anyway, wanted to show you, this is the utilization per street. You can see here, some streets are more heavily utilized than others. I want to point out too, effective parking at 85% capacity, that is basically the point at which your parking is no longer effective. Once you get above that 85% mark, people are going to stop driving those streets looking for spaces because they're generally full. So what we did was we took that data, again, this is AM peak, we indicated on a map, any of the orange areas are in that 85% to 100% utilization. The red is actually over 100%. So you can see the situation there, and we've also identified some of the the hot spots, 2nd Avenue South, Church, 4th, Cummins, 6th and 3rd. I don't think any of those necessarily will come as a huge surprise to you. So moving on in, this is the midday peak. I'll kind of go through these real quick here. Again, you've got them in front of you, and but I don't want to spend a lot of time on them. But again, gives you an idea of kind of where things are at in terms of the capacity of the on-street parking here. And this is, again, a midday peak map showing those. And ultimately what we're going to lead up to is a trends map here in just 1 second, but I'll show you. This is the afternoon peak bar chart you can see here. 6th Avenue, don't let that throw you off.
Yeah, that's
You'll
weird.
notice that one
Very
shows up
small.
continually. It's
Yeah,
a
it
really
is. It's really
small
short.
section of street, and
Yeah.
there's very little parking that's actually allowed on there. So it generally is always full, because it's such a short.
200.
What's that?
200%.
200%,
I mean,
exactly.
I don't know how they get twice as many.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they do it either, but they do. So anyway, here's the PM peak map, but then this is the weekends. So we also have the weekend data for this, and we've got this data anyhow you want us to cut it, we can get it for you. This is the weekend situation. Interesting, it's not quite as bad, it seems, with the on-street in terms of utilization. Interesting, one of the things of note here, 9th Avenue is the one over behind by the police department there. It's used during the week. It's not used at all on weekends. Now, there aren't many spaces down through there, but it was not used at all on weekends.
Interesting.
So this is the map I was wanting to show you. This is basically all of your streets at any given point experience either a situation where they're nearing capacity or they are over capacity in terms of parking for your on-street parking lot here, or on-street parking, I should say. So you can see you've got some issues with regards to on-street parking as it relates to the downtown area. So the garages are fun to look at. I've really enjoyed looking at the data for the garages. So here's your 2nd Avenue parking garage during the week. We've identified a section there you can see between the black lines here, basically from 8:15 in the morning when all the city staff shows up for work to 10:30 a.m. is generally your peak period. You can see for garages the effective parking is 90%. So anything below 90%, the garages are in pretty good shape. You can see here with the 2nd Avenue garage, again, there's 304 spaces. You're actually in pretty good shape during the week. And then if we go over the weekend, it's even better. Now, one of the things I want to point out about 2nd Avenue garage is when we counted this, obviously the building on the corner, former First Tennessee Bank building, was already being torn down, so there was no utilization of that garage during that time. So obviously, this picture will change as that is redeveloped and there's new parking, obviously, that's using the garage. So keep that in mind. But this is the 2nd Avenue parking garage on the weekend. 4th Avenue is a little different story. 4th Avenue, you can see here, the peak period is longer. You're 10 a.m. to 2:30 during the week. Total space is 338. You can see with that 90% effective capacity during the week, you're bumping right up against it for a couple hours of the day. But it doesn't get any better on the weekends. In fact, it gets worse, as you can see here. You've basically got this peak period here from 11:30 a.m. to 3 p.m., and you're running, as you can see, 337 spaces. You're right up against 100% capacity on that 4th Avenue garage.
On the weekend.
On the weekend.
One of the things, just a
During that
quick
time.
reminder on this, one of the things that's included in this year's budget is funding to provide for a display system at the 4th
Yeah.
Avenue garage
That's good.
Yeah.
that would let
Good.
people know about available spaces. We've not quite been able to move forward with that yet, but we still hope to have that in place. But that would help with
Good
that
point.
very issue, so that you're not having people enter when it's actually full and they can't find a place. That's a very frustrating experience for folks. So
Yeah, and
that should help, and that should
you can't
help
get
with
around it.
managing
Yeah.
during these peak times, especially weekend times.
Especially when you get all the way to the top looking
Exactly,
for a space.
exactly.
And then
Yeah,
you have to back up to turn around to
Exactly.
come back down.
Yeah.
It's-
So
It's
that-
not a happy time.
So the interesting thing, as of right now, I mean, you could convince people to go 2 blocks over and park in the 2nd Avenue garage, and they've got plenty of parking. And, it's only 2 blocks, but, sometimes I think people think of the 2nd Avenue garage as being a whole lot further away than what it really is. But, but anyway, I thought that was some interesting data there.
Construction around there now that makes it look as if it's
Yeah.
more difficult
Good
from there
point,
to
good
down.
Very good point. Absolutely. And then obviously, the 4th Avenue garage is centered around, there's a lot of activity centered around that
Indeed.
area. So
And once this building is built and there's a restaurant there and everything, activity will center around this garage.
it's going to change, and that 2nd Avenue garage is going to look, that line's going to look a whole lot different whenever that happens. Absolutely. There we go. So next thing, parking duration. So the duration is basically looking at how long people are parking in their spaces. As you all know, the city generally has the 4-hour maximum parking now. So what we did was look at the duration. Walker Parking has a system they use where they go around and are actually able to capture the parking as they drive around the downtown area, and they're able to count and see how often people are moving and returning, or new spaces being occupied. So, and that's important as it relates to the operations of things, as we'll get to later on in this study. Come on, move on. There we go. For this area, the duration analysis was just a little bit smaller. We didn't capture, we didn't capture the factory and some of those areas that are outside kind of the area of influence there. But this was also done in the fall. This was done on a court day as well, so that'd be interesting to know. We were looking at the on-street parking spaces. Obviously, we can't really do that in the garage, so we were looking at the on-street parking spaces. This basically, again, provides the information as it relates to turnover, which is very important to the businesses in downtown, obviously, is the turnover side of things. So this is a very important measure as it relates to parking operations. So looking at a data snapshot now, for this one, we're looking at 4th Avenue, basically 4th Avenue North from West Main to Bridge, and 4th Avenue South from West Main to South Margin. So it's a bigger area. But again, the idea is to give you an idea of the types of data we're working with here. So for this chart here, you can see here, during that on that section of roadway, 44% of all vehicles are there less than an hour, basically. 19% are there between an hour and 2, 13% between 2 hours and 3 hours, and then, and then 24% of all those vehicles are there for 4 hours, over 4 hours. So one thing you might be interested in hearing is, generally speaking, when we looked at all the data compiled, it looked like the average duration throughout the study area was about 2.9 hours overall. So, but that takes into account people who are there for 4+ hours, but at the end of the day, the average was about 2.9 hours. This is actually the breakdown of that by every street. Again, the 1 hour, the 2 hour, the 3 hour, the 4 hour. I think in some cases, I think maybe I expected to see, in some cases, a little more than 4 hours, a little more than what we actually ended up showing, more people staying there for longer than 4 hours. But nonetheless, there are, quite a few people who are doing that. And like I said, right now, you've got the 4-hour restriction. So real quick, existing condition, loading zone, we did look at loading zone also. We had one per UPS driver talk about this is a disaster. This particular truck, I think, is a Cisco truck, but they were, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they get in some of these places, but this is not a situation that's unique to City of Franklin. We've done some, studies in Nashville. John's done them all out throughout the country. This is not a situation unique to the City of Franklin, but that is something we're going to continue to look at and make some recommendations as it relates to how you deal with the loading and unloading areas. Real quickly, we did an online survey. Maybe, hopefully, some of you all took it. We got 442 responses back in the fall up through December 5th of 2016. Just real quick, a few things I wanted to point out with regards to the online reasons they were visiting downtown was dining and shopping, and then special events. I don't think that's any surprise to anybody here. Parking of choice, there's 3 main criteria, and John will talk about that in just a second. Cost versus free parking, availability of parking, and proximity to destination. Those are the 3 main drivers, and that's exactly what showed up here in our survey. Here's the time of day they're visiting, morning, afternoon, and evening, and then ranking of parking preference. I found this interesting. People would just assume park on street as they would a surface parking lot or in a parking garage. I kind of thought maybe a parking garage would be maybe the most popular, but it's absolutely.
I want to say to you, for females, especially by themselves, especially any time after complete daylight, that would not be a choice that they would make.
That's an excellent point. You're exactly right. And that's part of what we're doing. We're assessing some of the parking facilities as well as it relates to those safety-related issues as well.
And we have significantly improved the lighting in all of these garages.
But still.
But still, it's an issue, but that's one of the things we've tried to help with, and that.
Yep.
Yeah, lighting's been really improved.
Was the biggest issue. These are just some wordles that came out of the survey. Not enough parking. We heard that. Parking garage, court. The court thing came up continuously about parking on court days in the garage, particularly. Some of the best aspects, people, indicate a lot of times that, they felt safe. They liked having the garages being convenient. The parking was relatively convenient to where they wanted to be. So just some interesting little tidbits. Before I turn it over to John real quick, I wanted to see if there are any questions at this point. He's got just a couple of slides he wants to go through.
One thing I also wanted to add too is that what we didn't collect and that we're still working on collecting is looking at utilization and turnover at the lease parking spaces as we look to renew those leases. Long term, we really need to know the impact that that could have if for some reason those were to lapse. So we're working on that and we'll provide that information to Eric to get out to the board eventually.
Yeah.
Have you addressed the problem of people that work downtown parking at 8 o'clock and then there are no spaces for customers? Because that was an issue that was presented by a lot of the stores downtown.
Yeah, we've not addressed it yet. We're going to be addressing it once we get to our recommendations. We have looked at that. That's one of the reasons for the duration. What we looked at as far as how long people are parking there.
How long and where?
Yeah,
Gives
yeah,
you a good sense of that.
you're exactly right.
Well, that was an issue that was brought up, and I mentioned it to you all when I met with you, but I
Yeah,
didn't
we're going to be addressing that as part of, ultimately as part of our recommendations, yes.
Did you all, Mr. Mayor, get feedback from your stakeholder, residents that live downtown?
We actually.
When special events occurs and they cannot get in and out of their spaces, was that addressed in some of your stakeholder meetings? From private citizens?
Yeah, we haven't had all of our stakeholder meetings yet, but yes, we have a representative from the Downtown Franklin Neighborhood Association. And I can tell you what we're hearing is it's not just on special event days.
Right.
It's actually, there are issues on just regular days of the week as well, as far as getting blocked and those types of things. So, yes, we have had those discussions and we'll continue to have those discussions.
Yeah, I get calls from citizens telling me that they're blocked in or
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
get the groceries in.
Yeah, well, and that's an important reason for the city including in what we're doing, the striping plan, because ultimately that will really help with that, because it will clearly indicate where you can park and where you cannot park.
Fire hydrants, driveways, intersections.
Go ahead. What'd you say, Paul?
The striping plan would address fire hydrants, driveways,
Yeah.
intersections, site distance issues, and that's the benefit of having that long term.
And I've had some people talk about sight distance too.
Sure. So when I was looking at that slide, number 41, were you saying, we're talking about the spaces for the courts and everything. Do we reap any benefit from them using the parking garage that we built for the county courts?
In terms of,
Do we lease out the spaces to them? Are they paying any fee whatsoever?
Actually,
They provided the land.
That's
provide the
right.
land.
They provided the
actually,
land to
there's
start
a
with.
contract, we're supposed to provide
Exactly.
Okay.
spaces for that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because I know that was, yeah, okay. Just a question on that.
That's
And then,
back
all right, and then the other thing I had here, whoops, I think I'm going backwards
sorry, I
here.
know there's a lot there.
No, that's all right.
Let's
I
go
made a
through
note.
quick.
I'm trying to find it. When you were talking about the loading zones,
Yeah.
one of the places that has extremely tight spaces and they find that they've got to deal with this problem is Charleston. Do you ever look at places like that and how they deal with their loading zones? Because you talk about tight, they're a lot tighter than we are.
Oh,
And-
there's no comparison.
Yeah.
You're exactly
So,
right.
do you
Yeah.
ever look at that kind of thing?
Yeah, actually,
and-
Charleston has an interesting dynamic there with regards to how they handle that. We're actually looking at what Charleston is doing.
Good.
Because they have, well, I guess you may have been on the Vision City visit
Right, in
that I was
Charleston.
on where we
Yeah.
talked about that. So
Sure.
I actually was taking notes feverishly during that
Mhm,
visit because I think they do a good job at handling things there as
Yeah.
far as deliveries go. So we're
Well, I
definitely going to be looking at
Remember in 2006, I went there as well, and that's one of the issues that we looked at specifically. And I don't know whatever happened to that, but anyway. And then the last thing, I think on slide 30, if I go back here real quick, on slide 30, you were talking about the peak hours on the weekends. So I'm glad to see that the peak hours are middle of the day, and if we do valet parking, then it really drops off. So our parking is available for valet parking, and for people that want to use the garage. So it's not a problem. We're not at the peak. We're not up there at 338. We're not even close to the red line. So I just want to point that out.
Even on Main Street, I see Main Street. No, no.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Fourth Avenue garage?
what you said on Fourth Avenue.
Yeah, the Fourth Avenue.
Lower on
Well, on the weekends, your peak, but it's in the day. It's not at night.
What he said.
Here you go.
Well,
Here's the weekend here.
There it is.
sure it is.
Yeah.
So goes what, that
It does
goes way
drop
down
off.
at 1,600 hours.
Yeah.
So you're,
Now, you can see it
that's
does
when you're
start to
going
creep
to.
So it
back
comes
up.
back
a
up.
Yeah,
little bit,
right.
yeah.
It creeps back
Around-
up,
around
but you're,
7 PM, but you're still,
Yeah.
you know, pretty well below your effective
yeah,
parking.
1,900 hours, you're
Yeah,
still
yeah.
way down below,
Yeah.
you're way below 100 spaces.
All right,
Right.
let's move forward.
Just wanted to point
Okay.
that out.
Yeah, let me just turn this over to John real quick. He's got a couple of slides he wants to go through here with regard to.
Okay. John Dorsett with Walker Parking Consultants. There's a few framing questions that we like to ask ourselves prior to making any recommendations, and this is part of looking at existing conditions. One of those is, how should the parking infrastructure and enforcement be managed? Another question is, how do we want to pay for parking? We have 2 parking structures now in the city. You've had an historical approach to paying for those. Is that a reasonable approach moving forward? Maybe it is, maybe it's not, but we would like some thoughts on that. And then also finally, how are other peer communities, how are they managing their parking, and what lessons might we be able to learn from those cities? So we did prepare a couple slides here to talk about some best management practices, those that promote on-street parking space turnover, best practices that promote financial sustainability of a parking enterprise, those that promote friendly parking enforcement. We also want to right-size parking so that we're not unnecessarily building spaces we may or may not need. And then we want to be fair and efficient when it comes to parking turnover. This is the famous parking triangle, as Brad refers to this.
I like the triangle.
You can have, there's 3 things featured here with the triangle. You have free parking, convenient parking, and available parking. And unless you are in a dying city where there's no economic activity in your downtown, and Franklin certainly not that, you can only have 2 of these 3 things at one time. You can't have all 3 things at one time, again, unless you're a dying city. So there's trade-offs here. And you can have free and convenient parking, but you won't have available parking. Or you can have free and available parking, but it may not be convenient. And there's some examples of other cities that we're citing here that are practicing this principle. And we refer you to Lexington, Kentucky, Bloomington, Indiana, Asheville, North Carolina, and Newport, Rhode Island, which also all have vibrant downtown communities. And they are all using parking meters and time limits. And in some cases, they provide alternatives for people who cannot park on street. And in a lot of cases, they're providing economic opportunities for people to park off-street, either at no charge or off-street at a rate that's less than what the on-street rate is. Another example of a best practice is financial sustainability. We're not here to recommend anything tonight, but here are 4 examples of cities that have created parking authorities. And a parking authority is a way for a city to collect money from different parking sources, whether it's from parking citations, parking revenue, parking meter revenues, parking lot revenues, and parking garage revenues. And they pool that money together, and then that money is used to cover operating expenses and debt service. A lot of parking authorities are servicing debt maybe on only 1 or 2 garages at a time. And so for those facilities in which they've retired debt, they still have a positive revenue stream that's being used to subsidize operations on maybe a newer garage that might have debt service. Another approach to this that is not a parking authority is to create a city parking department and operate it as a parking auxiliary or a parking enterprise. But the enterprise or auxiliary model is, parking pays for itself. Also, cities cited here, Wichita, Kansas, Carmel, Indiana, New Braunfels, Texas, and Holland, Michigan. Again, they all have vibrant downtowns like Franklin. And I think some of these things may be things that you're already doing, but these are examples of cities that are practicing friendly parking enforcement. They're giving warnings on that first violation instead of parking tickets. They have a graduated fine schedule where you're offering leniency to, you know, a first-time offender, and then you're really going after the scofflaw or the repeat offender by charging them a higher fine because they've chosen to break the law on multiple occasions within a calendar year. And, you know, a couple cities that are practicing what we call fair, and fair is another word, I think, for being lenient, and we want to promote tourism within your downtown, and we want to encourage people to come back. So again, we may issue warning citations. In the city of Lafayette, Indiana, and Dunedin, Florida are examples of that. So those are a couple examples of some things that we're looking at in other communities. So any questions on any of that?
Are you going to recommend some of these things that you presented to us?
Not tonight, but we
No,
will
not-
eventually,
but
correct?
eventually.
Yes.
Before we jump to any recommendations or conclusions, we wanted to really just get the existing conditions facts out there to the board to understand, receive any feedback that you all have, and our next steps are to go to a lot more public engagement, meeting with stakeholders. And
Those cities that you mentioned, do they, any of them or all of them have parking authorities?
Lexington.
Some of them do, but some of them do not.
Like which ones have it? Lexington?
Lexington has
one, I
one,
know that.
Chattanooga, Louisville, and Birmingham. They all
Do
have
they work
parking
well?
authorities.
Birmingham.
They can be made to work well.
Depends who's running it. Another government authority, I don't know. If the government's running it, I'm not so sure.
It's not a guarantee. It's not a guaranteed thing, but they can be made to work well.
All right.
And one of the things, I guess, real quick, if I may, Mr. Mayor, just want to point out, we are planning to have our public meeting April 10th. Here at City Hall, it'll be in the training room. That's 4:30 to 6:30 on April 10th. So just a heads up there.
4:30.
So,
4:30 to 6.
What day of the
April
week?
10th?
is that?
that is
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
April 10th.
Okay, great job, good information. We look forward to the next steps.
4:30 to 6:30.
So, we're gonna turn on the afterburners here a little bit. Number 4 is, consideration of initiating the annexation process and draft plan of services, Resolution 2016-90, for the annexation of 4360 Long Lane. The Moss property established a public hearing for April the 11th. Pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Move
That would
forward.
really just be initiating the process.
Yeah, right.
And then 5 is something we've had on a repeated basis on here, is continuing to talk about our road impact fees, an ordinance to amend various sections, Chapter 4, Title 16, Chapter 16 of Appendix A of the Franklin Municipal Code concerning road impact fees. Is the board ready to have this at a voting session? Are you ready to talk about it again at another session? It's just a question.
I think we need to have some more information myself on
Yeah,
that,
I do
and I think
too.
the meeting needs to be a little longer than just 10 minutes or
I
something.
know, which we
Okay,
usually get.
we'll bring it back the next work session. And there was some additional information this time that gave you some examples.
Just put it number one.
Uh,
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Make that
Yeah,
be-
don't leave it at the end.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we'll move it up.
Mm-hmm.
And we did provide, one piece in particular that's, I think, interesting is
What number?
applied the potential proposed fee on collectors to the permit activity we had last year. Gives you at least a sense by area what would have been generated had we had that fee structure in place. So it just gives you a sense of that. And also, one of the things that is in the pulled from the major thoroughfare or the comprehensive transportation plan we can show you too is a map of the types of roads that would be eligible. Okay, so we'll make sure you see that too. It's real easy to see the green roads are the ones that would fit that definition, but we'll make sure that's in here too. That gives you a sense of that.
Okay, the next thing is resolution to award the construction contract for the East McEwen Drive Safety Enhancement Projects to Superior Traffic Control. Apparently, we've done all we can do, and this is something that we're not capable of doing, so everybody good with that one?
Yep.
So you'll vote on that
And
tonight.
we'll vote on that tonight, and then number 8 is an annual progress
Move that.
report. Franklin Forward, we're gonna move that to next time. So,
Good idea.
let's reconvene at 7 o'clock.
Good.